Hey, Austin, how we doing? Huh? Wow, what a veg fest. Can you hear me okay? Okay. You know what? I'm so pumped to be here. I just came in 2 nights ago. I was moving until 2 a.m., got to bed like a little before 3 a.m., got up a couple hours later. Excited to be here at Veg Fest today. And why don't we just take 10 seconds to give a round of applause for the organizers who put this event on. This is absolutely incredible. I've been to Veg Fest across the country. The last 7 years, been living on the road. This is settling down for me. Signing a lease, kind of a big deal. Haven't done that since 2005. And in fact, I've seen some people here that I've seen in Hawaii and in Chicago, in California, other parts of the country, and you guys are doing it up right here in Austin. This is a phenomenal turnout and great event. You should be very pleased as a community. Today, we've got 45 minutes, probably about 43 left, so we're going to get right to it. I want to talk about some things that I think are fundamentally important. Who here is familiar with veganbodybuilding.com or some of the stuff that I've done or that I've been involved in over the years? Okay, very small number of you. That's great. I'll just give you a really brief background, and then I want to get into some really important principles. So I grew up on a farm in Corvallis, Oregon, and I raised animals for food production. My parents met in the animal science department at Oregon State University. I was in the 4-H program. Even have some photos in my book of me showing a dairy calf at the fair and rabbits and chickens and things like that. And that's the background I come from. I was also the smallest kid in school, smallest boy in school for my age group. But I grew up watching He-Man and Captain Planet, and I had these ideas of, man, all these cool guys. Sure, they're cartoons, but come on. I mean, they're doing great things. They're positive role models. They're trying to do good for others, help the planet, help others around them, and they're very strong physically. I wanted to gain muscle and get stronger. In 1995, due to my older sister's influence, I decided to give up all animal products. But I was very concerned. I was very, very worried. Where do I get protein, right? You know, I'm 120 pounds when I became vegan as a high school kid. Can I gain muscle? Should I just continue to drink as much milk as possible, have eggs, as much meat, whatever, until I get bigger and stronger, and then give up those items because I care for animals and I don't want to eat them anymore? And then I realized, you know what, at the end of the day, what our bodies really need, as I'm sure many of you know, and we're going to talk about this today, are vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, glucose, complete protein, right? Where do these things come from? In their original forms, where do these come from? Yes. They come from plant-based whole foods. They come from fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, legumes, you name it. It comes from nature in their best and optimal form. So, we've all said something. Every single person in this room has said, you know what? I can't seem to lose that final 5 or 10 pounds or whatever number it is. Or you know what? I wish I could gain weight or gain some muscle. Or I wish this or I wish that, right? We've all said that at some point, right? Yeah. All right, and the rest of you are liars. It's okay. It's okay, Austin. I'm going to get to know you. And now that I'm here, now we're going to get to know each other. The reason that's important is because I think a lot of us, or actually I don't think, I'm convinced, and my new book is all about this. I'm convinced that we think we're doing something, but we're not actually doing it. We all say, you know what, I've been vegan for a while, I'm eating all kinds of green foods, and no, you're not. No, you're not. Not if you're completely transparent and honest about what you're really doing. You know, I exercise all the time and I can't seem to... No, you don't. No, you don't. You're on Facebook. You're on YouTube. You're in front of the television. I've been studying these patterns for the last 10 or 15 years. And the reason that all came about was because I was a 5-sport athlete in high school, and I was a distance runner. I went on to run NCAA collegiate cross country. And then I really got into bodybuilding and fitness, and I wanted to gain muscle. And with all the enthusiasm I could muster, I went after it. I lifted weights. I even took some supplements. I was pumped. And after 1 year, I gained 1 pound. How do you think I felt? Not awesome. That's the official term. Not awesome. And the next year, I attempted the same thing. And I gained 30 pounds in 1 year. And went from, at the time, 157-pound runner to 185-pound then bodybuilder in 1 year. And that was my goal. And later on, I got up to just about 200 pounds and then would drop body fat and get super ripped for competition. So I figured out how to do those things. And what happened was I realized that I wasn't being totally honest with myself or those around me. I wasn't eating enough food to elicit the changes, the growth, the gains that I wanted to achieve. I wasn't training nearly as often as I needed. I was hanging out with friends till 3 a.m. I was chasing after girls. I was whatever it wasn't training. At least not the type of training that's required to actually see results. And I see this all the time in people because I went through a lot of these things. When I became vegan, it didn't work very well. We all know somebody who said, you know what, I tried, right? I've had people come up to me at the booth today. You're probably in this room. Come up to me and say, you know, I tried being vegan, didn't work. It's like trying to learn Japanese but never studying it. You have to invest something into it to get those kind of results. And as soon as I became aware of what I was really doing versus what I wasn't doing, I was able to achieve in what I was trying to do. Namely, I stumbled upon a book, Body for Life by Bill Phillips, which required people who followed this training program to do one thing. And it was simply just be honest and simply be accountable. We had to write down what we're eating, eat 6 meals a day, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I had to write down what I was training every day, how many sets, what the weight was, even the rest periods. The whole idea was to train us to be consistent. If we're trying to get to some sort of end result, first we have to have a reason behind it. We have to really care. And then we have to be consistent. Because consistency leads to adaptation. You get better. You get used to it. Your body responds. Your mind responds. Whatever it is that you're training. And after consistency and adaptation, you get improvement. You get where you're trying to go, and success follows. It's a pattern. It works from learning a language to learning a new skill to gaining weight to losing weight to having more energy to whatever it is. It's just following these steps. So how do you care in the first place? Well, I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes I'll share with you. It's a quote from Mark Twain that says, and I want everyone to think about this quote, how it relates to you right now, health and fitness, maybe some other areas of life. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. Every single person in this room knows somebody right now who is suffering from an illness that is directly related to diet and lifestyle. And that could include exercise. It could be in that. We all know somebody. Maybe we're suffering that from ourselves. Maybe it's something to do with fatigue or obesity or heart disease or elevated cholesterol levels or hypertension or something. And also the fact that there's something universal that we all share. Every person in this room shares it with every single other person on the planet and every other being on the planet. And that is that we all have this unbelievable burning desire to live a life free of pain, suffering, and fear. And every single person has the capacity today to make that change. And it just so happens that making that change, compassionate change for others, is the best way to get proper nourishment for yourself. To follow whatever your passion is. Doesn't matter what it is. Gaining weight, losing weight, playing on the softball team, competing in CrossFit competition, getting up in bodybuilding competition like I did for 10 years or so. You have that energy, for one, that you get from those types of foods. You have everything that you need from its original sources when you eat whole foods. So I want to talk about that right now. When I said, you know what, I tried being vegan, didn't work very well. I mean, I stuck with it, but it didn't work very well because guess what? I was waking up and having cereal with soy milk, and then I would have bread rolls later on for a snack, and then for lunch I would have chips and salsa and some bagels, and then I would get home and have some spaghetti with maybe some soy milk and soy ice cream and some grapes. In that entire daily menu, I had one food, unless you count like the tomatoes and the salsa. And I know there's a lot of us who are doing that. And that's important. Because what are we really doing? Are we fueling ourselves to have tons of energy, to get nourishment, to properly metabolize food and to lose weight and to have great muscle repair and all this kind of stuff? Or are we eating a lot of filler foods and junk foods? And if we can come to terms with that, we can make a significant change. So let's talk about some of the ways. Let's talk about some of the ways to do that. Here's what I found to be some of the keys to having energy, recovering from exercise, gaining muscle, burning fat, and it's actually quite simple. It's just that most people aren't doing it. And number one is to go back to the basics and start eating plant-based whole foods as your foundation of what you eat. It's okay to have some of the refined foods now and then. I mean, I love a burrito as much as the next person, which has the tortilla in it. But at the end of the day, what we really want to do is as many alkaline-forming whole foods as possible. Fruit is the best thing to have before a workout. It's this amazing energy source. If it's a couple hours before a workout, have something more like potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, brown rice, quinoa, oats, something that's a long-lasting, slow-releasing carbohydrate. But if it's right before a workout, fruit is the best thing that you can do. In fact, I'll eat bananas during the workout because I'm mostly lifting weights. It's not going to be hard on my stomach. And even if I were running or something else, fruit is so low calorie, high nutrient dense, easy on the stomach, digested in 30 minutes or less, assimilated, energy is provided, ready to go. So go back to the basics and eat plant-based whole foods is absolutely the foundation. What about meal frequency? How often do people eat here? 3 times a day? 4 times a day? 5 times a day? 6?
2 hours.
Every 2 hours? Daniel over there? You know what? One of the best ways that I found, and a lot of others have found to approach a nutrition plan, is to eat every 2 to 3 hours. Why? Oh, I'll tell you why. It means you're constantly nourished. You have energy all the time. You don't go up and down with energy. You don't feel lethargic. Oh, I got to crash. 2 in the afternoon, got to crash. Had a big sandwich. Tired. You don't have that. You can train anytime. The biggest reason we don't exercise is why? We don't have time. Which actually isn't fair. Because every single person in this room has 1,440 minutes in a day. It's how we prioritize it, how we use it, that is actually significant there. We all say we don't have time. Well, or we're tired. We had to sit down for a while. We had to do something on the computer first. But if we're constantly nourished, eating every 2 to 3 hours, we've got the energy to do it. Also, it does another thing. It prevents us from overeating or undereating. If we know we're not going to have food for 5 or 6 hours, we're going to eat a lot. Just natural instinct. Store up. We're going to eat a ton of calories. It's going to take a long time to process, to digest. May even get bloated from it. May even get tired from it. But if we can eat every 2 to 3 hours, we're not overeating. We're not undereating. We're constantly nourishing ourselves. It also works really well with our metabolism, our body's ability to burn fat. When the body knows it's constantly getting nutrition. It's also a great way to spread out calories. My thing, most of my experience, even though I haven't competed since 2009, you know, I've obviously lost a little bit of muscle compared to some photos in my book and on my website. I went from 120 pounds to 195 in a relatively short period, but you know, a healthy period, 7 years or so. So my main experience is building muscle and bulking up. And I've had a lot of those questions today. I've got a booth out there, you know, in the festival, and people have been asking, you know, if I'm having a hard time building muscle, I'm a hard gainer, or I just, you know, I burn so easily. Well, when we can eat every 2 to 3 hours, it's a great way to get adequate calories throughout the day. How do we know? A question I'd like you to ask yourself right now, every single person who said, you know what, I wish I could lose that final whatever number of pounds it is, how do you know how to go about doing that? How many calories are you consuming right now? How many are you expending? How often are you training? What types of foods are you eating? You can't. That's the reason we don't get to these outcomes. You're not going to gain muscle, you're not going to gain weight, you're not going to lose weight unless you can answer those questions. And I kind of prod and I push, and I know my writing style is very uplifting and encouraging, but it's a little bit in your face too. Because I think if we can know what we're doing, that is the only way to create change. because we can't really get to those outcomes without it. We have to have that knowledge of where we are. So going back to the basics, it's eating those plant-based whole foods, eating every 2 to 3 hours, and it's eating the highest quality of foods within a given category, right? We all know there's a spectrum of not all fruit is created equally. It's just the way it is. So sometimes I pick on lettuce, no offense to lettuce, but there's clearly a spectrum and a continuum and a scale from iceberg lettuce to romaine to darker leafy greens to all down the line of the lettuce family or of other greens. You can just lump all greens together. Clearly, there is more nutrition in the really dark ones like kale, dino kale, collards versus iceberg lettuce or even romaine lettuce in that kind of comparison. But guess what? There's that same comparison, that same continuum in all types of foods. Some fruits are clearly better than others. More antioxidants, more nutrient dense, provide much more nutrition than other ones. And you can see these, you can just measure the foods, you can see their stats online. You can see their nutritional properties and components online. Same with grains. Everyone picks on white rice or picks on something else and praises quinoa and brown rice and all these other things. There's reasons for that. Same with nuts and same with seeds. Walnuts are the only nut that have omega-3 essential fatty acids, for example. There's seeds like such, inchy seeds, chia seeds, amazing levels of omega-3 or antioxidants, or hemp, which is chlorophyll-rich, alkaline-forming. It's a green superfood that's a complete protein, has essential fats. So it's finding the foods that are the best ones within their nutritional category and consuming those. So that's really, really important as well. And if we can do those things and combine that with some sort of exercise program that fits our interests, that's where we see positive results. And a few tips for that. Sometimes we see so many new age equipment pieces, different types of machines, cables, things like that. We've all seen that in the gym, right? Sometimes these things, or in fact most times, they can never replicate or duplicate what you can do with a barbell or a dumbbell. These things that are the compound multi-joint movements that engage the full body. There's a reason why so many athletes, so many strong men and women in all areas of athletics do the squats and deadlifts and presses and overhead press and bent over rows and lunges with heavy dumbbells and things like that, because these are the ones that stimulate the most growth, the greatest opportunity to build muscle, and also because they're so all-encompassing. Imagine, squat it involves everything in the body. It's just so great for toning every muscle group, burning fat, getting stronger, able to move more weight, burn more fat, have more energy. It's phenomenal. So if we can use that best approach, the best case scenario nutritionally, combine it with best case scenario weight training or body weight or whatever it is, pull-ups, the best versus a machine exercise that's inferior, subpar, then we get those kind of results. If we're trying to burn fat, when's the best time to burn fat? Any guesses? There's a couple answers. Morning is a great time. Morning's a great time to burn fat, or right after a weight training workout. Why is that so?
Already spend your glycogen stores?
Yeah, exactly. Our biggest fuel sources, it's just dominate. Carbohydrates dominate our fuel source. It's the best one. And then fats are called upon second, and then protein. Protein's the worst fuel source there is. So when you're training in the gym, when I get ready for competition, and I want to have veins and muscles everywhere and be really competitive and be really ripped, you bet I'm training for about an hour or so, use up all my carbohydrate stores, and the body has no option but to go to fat next. And usually it takes just about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. But also, why did everyone say morning? At least 20 people shouted out morning, because you also haven't been eating carbohydrates you're not eating during your sleep, unless you get up in the middle of the night for a snack or something, or right before a workout. But if you can just if you go do your training on an empty stomach after just waking up, boom, burning fat again, because you don't have you don't have that the carbohydrate to burn, the glycogen, the sugar to burn. That's why, like I said right now, sometimes I just made a return to training. I was injured and traveling all of last year, so I went from 195, which I was in February last year, and dropped a lot of weight, 25 pounds or so, because I wasn't training, wasn't eating very much. I just made a return to training. Some of you know this, follow on Facebook or Twitter, which I appreciate. And I put on about 16 pounds recently. And so I actually will eat like a banana during my workout, because my goal is bulking up right now. I'm not worried about that. But if I was just trying to burn fat, I wouldn't want to eat more sugary stuff or calories during the workout, because I need to burn through those carbohydrates to get to the ability to burn fat. So I know a lot of times we struggle with that. We say, you know what, I did my cardio and I did it first, and then I did weights or this and that. But if you can, try to do whatever exercise that you do. CrossFit on the playground, running, whatever it is. Weight training, do your workout, and then spend a good 20 minutes or so. It doesn't take long, because you're already right in the fat burning zone. Do 20 minutes or so of cardiovascular training. Something on a bike, hiking, running, jogging, swimming, something like that. And furthermore, when you do this, it can get, maybe you're tired of it. You get a little bit old, it gets a little boring. One thing I found, and I hope this resonates with some people here, is that you can change your intensity level to change the experience. So what I like to do, and I got this from Bill Phillips' Body for Life program, is to use like a level intensity scale of 5 to 10. 5 is, so-so, kind of jogging along, pretty easy. And to do that for a minute or two, and then go to a 6 for a minute of intensity, then a 7 for a minute, then 8 for a minute, then 9, all the way to 10, where it's an all-out sprint or all-out pedal where you're standing up, not sitting on the seat, and then drop back down to a 5. So, kind of catch your breath, a little interval training. I think it's phenomenal, not only for mixing things up, but also for the experience that you get from testing. You're not only burning fat, but you're testing your lungs, testing your heart. You're making those stronger for all the other exercise that you do. So these are things that I think are fundamentally important, and I think a lot of times we're not doing them. We overlook certain exercises because they seem difficult or because they're actually exhausting. We don't want to do them because they're too hard. We find reasons not to do them. But I promise you, regardless of what your goals are, regardless of whether it's building muscle or burning fat, if we stick to some of those basic movements. I actually haven't touched a machine or cable this entire year. Even though I dropped a lot of weight when I hurt my chest and I couldn't train anymore. I just made a return in November, gained 16 pounds without a single machine or cable, just dumbbells and barbells. And I think they're absolutely the best. And you combine that with a high quality alkaline forming plant-based whole food nutrition program, and it's good to go. And the thing that you need to remember is that you've got to track this in some way to find out what you're doing, because like I said earlier, you can't get to that adaptation if you're not consistent enough to get there. So I have that in my book. It's in lots of other books where it's just a little map for you there to write the time of the workout, the exercises, the weights. It's just a journal, basically a journal, and the same nutritionally. Because we can go all day long. I've been vegan 17 years now, and I've taken notes on some of my behavior patterns, and sometimes I've gone days in a row without having a single green food. And we know that dark green foods are the best foods there are, probably followed by fruits. But even as someone who focuses on plant-based whole foods and is typically aware of those kind of things, went days without any green foods. So imagine if we're not really recording that. What are we really eating? And are we really creating an opportunity to get to where we want to go? And also, he mentioned during my intro where talk about lowering stress and things like that. If we're able to eat the foods that take the quickest amount of time to digest, the easiest time to break down food, then that naturally lowers our stress. I mean, digesting food is a pretty stressful event. I mean, most people in this room, all of us at some point, we pass out because we ate too much food. Maybe some people are right now while I'm shouting at you. Because it's like a wrestling match. I mean, that's really the only other thing that's as exhausting as digesting hard to digest food. It's like a wrestling match, which takes all your energy. I wrestled for a few years, I know. So we can inherently lower stress by eating the foods that are the easiest to digest and by eating them frequently, by having food with us all the time. I'm gonna check my time here. Nice. So another thing that I think is fundamentally important too is how prepared are we? We live in an absolutely overstimulated, overbusy, time consumption culture and society. I mean, if we really, again, if we're totally honest with ourselves, which we're trying to do today, Austin, we make a pie chart. How much time is spent on the internet, or on TV, or on commuting, or on this or that? And I'll tell you, before I wrote 300-page books in like 18 months. And before I did that, I realized I did my little pie chart. I just made it myself. I was on the internet for about 6 hours a day, just doing stuff. Playing on my internet, my forum, some of you are members of it, veganbodybuilding.com forum with thousands of members. I was just chatting on there, playing on there. I see people when I travel around, stay at people's houses, where TV is always on, or there's always something on YouTube that's got to be watched and shared with as many people as possible. And we have to update our Facebook status and just stand there and wait and see how many people like it. We wake up in the middle of the night to see how many people at us on Twitter. But here's the thing. I already said we all have 1,440 minutes in a day. How prepared are we? I got a bag of food with me I brought. Yeah, I'm at Veg Fest, there's lots of food around, but I'm busy nonstop, morning till night here, because I'm working a booth. I know I'm gonna be busy. And so I have my food with me. Some of you saw me, I was eating bananas on my way up here. I keep food in the car with me. As an athlete, I still wanna call myself that. I haven't competed in years, but I'm on my way back. I keep food with me. I keep fruit with me because it's just the best source of energy. It tastes great, it's highly accessible, it's easy, no mess, except for maybe a peel. I keep some protein bars with me sometimes, some energy bars with me, maybe some nuts, something manageable. Sometimes even full-on vegetables, something that's easy. Or even, I flew here a couple days ago. Of course, now I live here, but I flew here, and I brought like this Tupperware thing of some pasta that I had made, and I wanted to bring it with me. I had some pears that my mother had canned years ago. I was visiting my mother before moving out here. And I put those in a little sealed, whatever. I think Tupperware is a brand, but it's, it's a sealable thing. I'm not endorsing them. You know what I'm talking about. Take it with you thing. I brought pears with me. Took 3 burritos with me, 3 vegan burritos with me on the plane. I mean, I keep food with me when I'm in the car, when I'm traveling, when I'm commuting. So then, really no excuse to not be able to eat every 2 or 3 hours. No excuse to say, you know what, I can't go to the gym now because what am I going to eat afterwards? Or I can't go to the gym, I'm so hungry right now. It solves that problem. So how prepared are we? Do we sit at home and prepare some food like beans, quinoa, rice, something that can last, potatoes, my favorite, thank you. Yukon Gold, anybody else? Yeah, right here. If you have any with you, I'm over there. These things can last for about a week. And it can keep costs down significantly, because you've got it with you. You got bulk supply. Use little Ziploc, use little resealable things that can be rewashed, whatever. These are all things designed to make it easier, make it accessible, make these, whatever these goals are, whatever these passions are, totally attainable in health and fitness. So something else to keep in mind. And also, those who know me know that this is a huge component. This might be more important than anything. I threw the Mark Twain quote at you early. I'll say it again because it is important, and it actually was life-changing for me. That 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. And that is significant. By the actions we didn't take. The things we didn't say to someone who needed to hear it. The things we could have changed our life right then, and we didn't do it. Who cares what Mark Twain said 20 years from now? What about 2 years from now? Time goes by incredibly fast. But the other thing I wanted to say that I think is equally as important is, what about right here? Who wants to go to the gym? Who cares? Who cares about fitness? Who cares about health at all? What's the point? You have to answer that. And the quote that I'm thinking of, I picked it up 10 or 12 years ago. I can't remember who it's by, but it says, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strong pull of what you love." What is exercise? Exercise isn't going to a gym. Exercise is dancing, skateboarding, it's running on the beach. It's whatever, it's activity. It's physical activity that activates the heart, that burns calories. It's all these things. Sometimes we get tied into this corner. We get pushed into this corner where we think that exercise involves going to a gym. What about a playground? You know, what about doing something that's fun? What makes you want to get out of bed and go do that activity? You have to do that. Because if it's not fun, you're not going to do it. Same with academics. I mean, once you finish with high school, which sucks, right? Because you have to take all these different things, what do you do after that? Sorry for those who are still in high school. High school's fun. Actually, I really liked high school. I did. I loved high school. 5-sport athlete. Started, once I figured out all this consistency thing, started setting some academic records, I loved high school. But the point is, simple analogy. After high school, then we got to do what we really want. We learn about different things. We learn what makes us tick. We find ourselves, and you pursue that. And I promise you, if you find what you love to do in fitness or in health, heck, even in life, you'd be absolutely be successful at it, and can attain it, and can achieve it. Why? Because there's nothing else you'd rather do. Why are the best musicians in the world the best musicians in the world? Because they stayed in their basement or garage annoying their parents for 12 hours a day. Because they chose making noise and banging things and practicing whatever it is, I don't know music, more than anybody else. And so one of my role models said something in one of his keynote talks, which I thought was pretty hilarious. He's like, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. He said, "I'm guessing that Kobe Bryant and LeBron James didn't dominate in school because they were out shooting free throws. They're out playing for 10 hours a day." The idea that, what he was suggesting is that there are so many people who are just as physically gifted and talented as those two basketball players, or throw in Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson, throw in some of those people. But those people just had a dedication so high that it was unbelievable. And I think when we find that, I don't think we have to be the best in the world, but I think we have to be the best in our world and find what makes us want to achieve. Is it to be able to live long and play with our grandparents, our grandkids? Is it, well, the other way around works too. Is it because we want to pursue some new interest when we're 80 years old, or is it because we want to have tons of energy because we want to be an athlete well into our 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, in whatever sport we love? What is it? What are your reasons? And to do it, and you know all those tools. It's as simple as it gets, as I said 32 minutes ago. You follow the lifestyle patterns that get you there, and you do it, but you have to care. You have to find what pulls at your heart and do it. So I want to end there to take some questions really quickly. We have 10 minutes. I want to take some questions, and then I know there's a lot of things that we can cover. Source of protein and all this kind of stuff. It's really easy. It's really easy. Eat green foods, eat nuts, eat lentils, eat grains. Protein's one of the easiest things to get. It's laughable to think we're not getting enough protein if we're eating adequate calories. And I dedicate an entire chapter to it in my book, including 10 rather witty responses. When people ask where you get your protein, it's chapter 6. You go look. I got books. Some hot books sitting out there. So Right before I take quick questions, I do want to say, if there's some things, some of the really specifics I didn't cover, which exact exercises, which exact foods, what type of meal plans, how many calories. I worked my face off 12 hours a day, following my own passion. It was over 700 pages, but I narrowed it down to 320 pages through editing and working with an editor. And I put it all out there in my Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness book, The Complete Guide to Building Your Body on a Plant-Based Diet. And I'm going to have them out there. You're welcome to thumb through it. You're welcome to check it out online. You're welcome to get one today. I love to sign it, put a smiley face on it, which I've done for thousands and thousands of books. Everyone comes with a smiley face. And so all those intricate details, how to burn fat most efficiently, it's all in the book, and you can look through it out there. So if I didn't cover something really specific, I apologize. And also veganbodybuilding.com has hundreds of thousands of articles. Question here?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
You said that working with barbells is better than working with machines.
Yeah.
Which, in general, I agree with you. I think you're right. But are there any muscles or muscle groups in your body who really can't exercise with barbells? I mean, is there any? I'd say in general, I think you're absolutely right. But are there any muscles that you can't exercise with barbells?
Yeah, good question. The question is that, okay, Robert, you say barbells and dumbbells are best, but are there some exercises machines can do that barbells can't? And yes, in a way. So let's say you hurt your shoulder and you have to do these little rotator things. Yes, you could do that with a dumbbell. You could do that, but a cable might be a little more comfortable for that joint because it's not going to fall down like a dumbbell because just gravity is going to pull the dumbbell down. But a cable, if it's right here on a little pulley, is this perfect alignment for that. In general, I think your best bet is barbells and dumbbells almost exclusively, but really it's injury rehabilitation, where because a joint is so unpredictable, and barbells and dumbbells are so, sometimes I even do overhead press, I'm like, uh-oh, hope I don't fall backwards. If I'm pushing really heavy weight and I'm standing, you really have to be balanced and that kind of thing. When you're overcoming an injury and you can't do those kind of things, then that's where I would say some cables and machines can work. They're also great for burnout, supersets, drop sets, more supersets than drop sets, but machines and cables can be great for some of those things too.
So you think that barbells are better for exercising abdominal muscles than machines?
Well, for abdominal muscles, the question is rather than using machines. I know for abdominals, I wouldn't use machines. I would hang from a pull-up bar, and I would do hanging leg raises. I would do legs side to side. I would do knees up. I would lie on the floor and do leg raises like this. I would do anything that's total body and free weight style. And yes, there's even some things you can do with dumbbells, and medicine balls, barbells for abs, behind your head and crunches and on decline bench and without using any machines, just using basic equipment. Yeah, question here.
What kind of portion sizes would you use if you're eating 6 times a day? Regular portions?
Great. Perfect. What kind of portion sizes are you using if you're eating 6 times a day? Perfect. What I usually do is about 3 smaller meals and 3 bigger meals. I still think it's important to have a few core meals, like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner kind of thing. And I also do a post-workout meal that's pretty big. Because I work out pretty hard. Some of you know, I've maybe trained some of you. With some of you, I push it pretty hard, and I'm ready for a big meal after that. So in that case, I might even have 4, good-sized meals. But in general, and I have it in my book where it's like, I don't put times like 7 a.m., 10 a.m. I just use meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, meal 4, all the way to 6. Sometimes even 8 for a few meal programs in the book. And basically, you'll see meal 1 is kind of a bigger one. Meal probably 3 or 4 is a bigger one. 3, I guess, then 5 be like a dinner, and then that kind of thing. I would just say, we all work out at different times, right? Some are morning people, some are, and real quick, I'll address that. I know it's tough to run out of time, but some people will say, a question too is, so when do I train? In the morning or at night? That's all up to you. If you're not a morning person, don't train in the morning. You're not going to be, if you're lethargic and not into it and not caring and not excited and not pumped to be there, don't be there. I'm more of like a 6 p.m. kind of person. I wake up, I do my little internet stuff, I work on some projects, I go do my thing. I work a lot online, as a lot of you know, and I ship a lot of things, like the lovely shirt I have on. I ship a lot of things. I go do that around 5, and then I hit the gym when I'm fully nourished, tons of food, calories throughout the day. I've already had like 4 meals. Boom, I hit the gym when I'm full energy. So just want to throw that out there. Yeah, and way back there.
When you're working the coal shop, do you have a daily goal about how many grams of protein that you want to eat that day?
When I'm on a training day, okay. My answer is going to scare some people. The question is, when I'm training, do I have a certain target grams of protein that I eat per day? And yes, it's a high number. And yes, I butt heads with some people. And they're friends of mine, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, Dr. Esselstyn. But in my case, we're comparing just regular population, non-active people, which most of the population is, versus incredibly active, very determined, very focused, hardworking, lots of creating micro tears in muscles. So I do actually about 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. I know seems like a lot, but also, how honest are we in this room? I mean, how much are we training? If I'm training 2 times a day or 2 to 3 hours a day, obviously I'm burning more calories than almost anybody else. I can do that kind of thing because my lifestyle supports that. So I try to make that very clear that if you're not very active, it's laughable to even talk about protein. It's so easy to get. It's the nucleus of every cell. It's in every food. It's a no-brainer. If you're more active, let's say a casual jogger, runner, okay, protein's a little bigger part of the conversation. Maybe add a little bit more in, which is just eating more volume of food. You don't have to take supplements or anything like that. You can if you want, but you don't have to. But then if you're like a boxer, football player, bodybuilder, weightlifter, boom, micro tears in muscle fibers. You need those amino acids to recover, repair, rebuild. So 0.8 to 1.2 is what I would do. And again, I cover a lot of those in my book.
Last question.
Last question.
Hey, over here.
Oh, I thought you were my timekeeper.
For a kid like Benjamin, he's interested in playing basketball and building muscle and getting stronger. Are push-ups and other isometric exercises the best way for him? He's been vegan for 6 years, and he wants to know what the best exercises are for him to build strength.
Great. Nice to meet you, Benjamin. Excellent shirt, by the way. Listen, Benjamin, I was a 5-sport athlete, even at your age, too. And the question is for Benjamin, who's how old? 11, with his awesome kale shirt. What types of exercises should he be doing? You know what? I didn't touch any weights until I was like a sophomore or junior in high school, 15, 16 years old. But I was still incredibly fast, very, very strong. I would do push-ups and running and squats and all that kind of stuff. And I used to, even as a kid. I went back to my old bedroom when I was a kid and I saw things on the wall when I was a few years old. I was like 15 at the time, but I would jot everything down. How many miles I ran, how many miles on the bike, how many push-ups I did, how many sit-ups, and I had a target. I said, here's what I want to do today. 50 push-ups, and I would always do like 52 or 55. I would never do 50. And the same with how many sit-ups. I'm going to do 60 today. Well, I actually did 63. I always would exceed that to train myself, to push myself further. But those are natural movements for kids. The kids play, we climb, we kick balls, we run around. I wouldn't do anything with weights till years down the road, but you can still be very, very strong, very, very fit, very, very healthy by just using your active body. And congratulations, 6 years, that's over half your life, buddy. 6 years vegan, nice. Hey, listen, I got a split. I'm gonna be right outside. I've got books. I'll be signing. I only have like 25 left, and there's a lot more of you, so you can arm wrestle each other if you really want one. I'll be out there. They're usually 20. I'm doing them for 15, because I know most of you I think had to pay to get in, so the discount. And hope to see you around. I'm local now. Thanks.